Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Much Love with Keoki, part of the Much Love family. My name is David, and the gentleman across from me, the man, the legend, my brother, Keoki. In this episode, we're going to talk about our tattoos, when we started, where we started, and the meanings behind them. This is from the heart, and I hope you enjoy. Much love. So, Keoki, this is kind of, I know it's going to take you back, but what was the first tattoo on you? What was the first one you got?
Oh man, we're talking like back in the '90s, like so I want to say about 1995, 1996. It might
Hmm.
even be '94 because as the older I get, the less I
Yeah,
remember.
it all blends.
But it was my best friend, one of my friends in high school. His name was Call My Wilhelm, and he was just doing. One of his uncles had gone to prison and learned how to tattoo, kind of a prison style. So when the uncle came out, he had taught my friend Call My how to tattoo. So we were using like old cassette player motors, like making rotary machines, and we'd use like a guitar D string, and
Oh
then we'd
wow.
file it down into a point, and that's what we used as a needle. And my friend would wrap it around the actual spindle that was spinning, and then we would like cut cords from like old lamps and like old like electronic appliances, and then splice it and try to make electrical wires to go and
Oh
plug it in. So
wow.
yeah, at first it was with batteries, like the old school, like actual prison style, and then we started to mess with we'd use the power, like a dials for like a dimming light switch and
Hmm.
stuff like that, and then we found out that we could plug that in and turn it up and down, and it would change the power of the actual machine. So we would do crazy stuff like that.
That's genius.
Yeah, it was a bunch of kids that was like, we didn't know we were doing. It's the '90s, you know. My friend would we would drink like a 20-ounce like Coca-Cola bottle, and then rinse out the cap of the bottle, and then that would be our ink cap. We just pour ink inside it. We used to go to the store. My friend would go to the art store and get India ink.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what we used to use. We used to use India ink, and then just make our stuff from there. And we used to tear up T-shirts because we didn't know, we didn't know anything about paper towels or anything. We didn't even have gloves. Like we weren't even using gloves. Like we were just like tattooing each other. My friend's hands used to get like all black inside his fingernails and everything from all the ink, from wiping. We'd have
Doing
like
it
a
raw.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Straight up, it was so messed up. And he had like a bowl of water next to him, and as he's tattooing, he has like these cut T-shirt rags. They were about maybe like maybe about 6 inches by 6 inch, kind of like squares that we cut out of T-shirts. And he would just wipe your tattoo, and then as it got dirty, he would dip it into water and rinse it out, and then keep going. And then that's how we used to do it, just a reusable rag kind of thing like that. And yeah, so that's where it all started. That was my friend, and it was a tattoo on my leg back in the days. We used to I don't know, it was a '90s thing where everyone was either getting their name tattooed on their tricep or their name tattooed on their leg or something like that. I guess maybe it might have been a Hawaii thing, but that's what everybody was doing. So my best friend tattooed my name Keoki on my right leg. So yeah, that was my first tattoo.
How did it hold up?
Now it actually, I mean, it's scarred from hell. Because but to tell you the truth, like I've seen people who tattoo nowadays, and it still looks better even. And mind you, that was like well over almost 30 years ago, you know what I mean? So it's like, man, like it's actually still holds up really good. It didn't blow out, it didn't it actually looks like somebody tattooed it with an actual machine, but it was a guitar string.
That's crazy. That's really cool.
How about you? What was your first tattoo, man?
So for me, like I was against tattoos, at first. The culture that I grew up in. So I'm Jewish, and there's this thing where you can't be buried in a Jewish cemetery if you have any kind of tattoos. And at least that was the story that was always pressed upon me. And after doing some research, I found out that that wasn't true. And then I had a friend who is also Jewish, but he said, screw it, and he's all tatted up, and that kind of opened that opened the door for me. So I thought about it, and so I'm in a 12-step program, and I reached my first year clean, and I wanted to get something meaningful. So I on my thighs I got one day at a time,
Mm,
and the meaning behind that's pretty self-explanatory, but it means that you focus on today, on the present, not too far ahead, not from behind. You don't look in the past. It's just working today for today, and doing
right.
it one day at a time. The days start to pile up, the years start to pile up, the decades start to pile up, and that's how you make it through life, at least for me, clean. And that's the goal. So then I started getting phrases. I have six, three on each leg, for each one's a saying. So on one leg I've got one day at a time, and just for today kind of has that same significance of one day at a time. And then all will be well. So
Mm,
regardless of how rough what you're going through is, eventually you'll make it to the other side. And then on my other leg, I have never forget, never again. And this too shall pass. So never forget where I came from, how I ended up where I am. That never again will I fall back to that. And kind of along the lines of all will be well is this too shall pass. So again, whatever struggles you're going through, that's part of it. And whatever you're going through, you'll make it to the other side. So each one of those I got on anniversaries, and they're very, very powerful to me. It got me into tattoos. It got me into that world. It means a lot to me. And I'm sure for everyone, their tattoos have this strong significance to them. Even if it's a small one, there's a story behind it. When you think about it, it takes you back, or it has meaning that carries you forward. So, kind of for you, what's your most meaningful tattoos?
oh man. Well, majority of my tattoos, like, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just can't hear myself for some reason.
Oh,
So I don't know
you're
if I
good.
can. Okay, cool. Um, uh, yeah, a lot of my tattoos, like the Polynesians, are built on off my family. I have a band on my leg, uh, with some mountains, a Polynesian band with some lauhala, some basket weave representing strength, and it has my son's name, Ho'ohiapo. That's his middle name. My eldest son's name, and I got that when he was born in 1998. And then I have on my left arm, I have my last name Davis, represent my family. A lotus represents me, and then I have two kois that have represent my two sons. I have the ho'oyabu for my eldest son, and then my youngest son Nathaniel. I have him on my left arm with his brother. So the two kois represent my two sons. Um,
That's
on my
cool.
on my right forearm, I have a portrait of my son Nathaniel, and I have his name, Kelly Inohopono, on my arm, tattooed there. On my left leg, I have a Chinese dragon, a representation of a Chinese dragon. My dad's family were immigrants from China, and so I just to carry my heritage on that side, on my left leg, my Polynesian on my right, and stuff like that. And then I have a half sleeve from my Polynesian half sleeve from my chest onto my arm with a turtle, a honu, representing my family on my chest. So all of my majority of 90% of my tattoos are family, whether it's my sons or my immediate family, brothers and sisters, and carrying our family with us. It's been a thing for thousands of years in Polynesians. It's not just me, like they say, it takes a village, and it's all the people and that are dear to my heart and everything like that. And that's what I have on me tattooed.
So what's the meaning of a turtle? Because I've seen that a lot in Polynesian tattoos.
Oh, the meaning of something is really just. it changes by from 1,000 people, 1,000 tattoos. Like it can mean strength to one guy. It could mean that he has another guy could represent he has a sense of individualism. Another one longevity, wisdom. So many different things. But we have a lot of turtles in the Polynesian tattooing because all we could do, like a lot of other native cultures, is tattoo nature, what's around. Native Americans would tattoo the wolves and the things that were around them, and the eagles and the birds and all the stuff that was around them. And all the Polynesians did was tattoo the nature around them because that's the only thing that we understand.
So I've also seen a lot of feathers. I've got a few on my arm, and I wondered what that's also about.
A lot of feathers, once again, different types of birds, whether you're Native American and you're tattooing a condor or an eagle or something like that, or coming from another country where they have like pheasants in Japan where they have cranes and different ones of birds. Each one has their own representation. But in Polynesia, for us, like there's different types of birds, and the one that's more popular that I see get used a lot is the frigate, or what we call in Hawaii we call it the Eva bird. The Eva bird is one that's known. Because a lot of sailors, the Hawaiians were and Polynesians were, navigators. We traveled all over the world from islands to islands. We circumnavigated this planet. And what we would do is when you're getting close to land, you look for the birds, the frigates, the seabirds, seagulls, and stuff. And not a seagull, but a seabirds. And the birds could go anywhere from like 5 to 10 miles off the coast of the land.
Wow.
So what you do is you look for the birds and then you follow the birds home. The birds will lead you to land. And so it uses a lot of connotations and things. Is like kind of for me, I use it more in my patterns, like for if somebody who's like traveling a lot and they go places, or they're going so many places that I put the Eva birds to always remind them to find their way home, kind of guide them back home. Some people, it's a spiritual guidance, you know what I mean, where they're going through struggles and hard times in life. So we put the feathers of the bird, sometimes even the puel, the owl, is another one that is a different type of bird that they put on there. But like the owl feathers are also known as that too. But it's kind of a sense of, some people use it as like a higher being, something above you that flies
Okay.
above you, kind of like the Holy Spirit, kind of like something like that. That is
Yeah.
like a guidance from above, like your guardian angels kind of thing. And that as you go through life, that those feathers and those designs may that spirit give you guidance as you walk forward in life, kind of something. And it all depends, once again, on somebody's story and what they're trying to tell in their story.
Yeah. So, kind of piggybacking off of that, what are some of the most meaningful tattoos that you've done? I know it's all about the experience of the tattoo that kind of feeds it, and I'm sure that almost everyone has a significance, a meaning to your heart, because that's what you do. You put your heart into it. But kind of, are there any that really stand out? Some deep stories.
No, man, there's like so many. It's like we could do like 100 podcasts on just the stories that I could do. It's like the adventures I've been on the 23 years of tattooing. You get to
And
hear.
we'll definitely get to those. We'll we'll be doing this for a long time, so we'll definitely cover them.
Dude, I'll even do even somewhere we could probably maybe bring on some of those people who got those tattoos and talk about what it represented to them and those kind of things in the
Absolutely.
story. That's like you, like yours. You're the perfect one to get started with, dude. Like the tattoo that you have that we did on you, it's the impact of it and just the exchange of energy. But man, let's say, I guess one of the biggest ones would be just kind of also getting into everything. My best friend was the guy who tattooed everybody in high school, and we did that through the 90s. And then 1998 I joined the United States Army, and my friend tattooed me. I drew the design. My son was coming, and I knew the name that we were going to have for him already. And I asked my best friend to tattoo that, and it signified a lot. It signified, one, my son. He was the the greatest gift that was given to us. But it was on the night that I actually left for basic training. So I left in the military that night. They were like, your flight's tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
And so that night at like 2 o'clock in the morning, I asked my friend, like after we had been drinking all night, just like,
Mm.
we're gonna go off to the military. And so I asked my friend to tattoo me that night, and it was just me and him sitting in the garage, and he tattooed my leg before I left to the military, and it signified a time in my life where I took the step to that growth, that adulthood. It was my journey now. I was no longer the child that was being nurtured by my parents. This was my step out of. I was the bird that flew out of the nest. And,
Hmm.
that tattoo signified my step out into the real world. And I got married a year after that to my son's mother, and we went on crazy adventures, ended up getting a divorce. And but it signified the start of that, the start of me me walking my own journey. That's one of the most biggest and most important tattoos that I have, is that because it represented that I just had my son. My son, like I said, greatest gift to me, and then making that step to life. I've been through so many different tattoos and walks with people. I think it was I've tattooed people. Some people get tattoos just to, for aesthetics, and they're like, man, because it
Hmm.
looks cool, bro. Like, I want to get some strength. And then as I started to tattoo people who, when they would, for a lost one, I had a friend of mine, my friend Zeus, the 42's out in, his name is Zeus 42. Out lives out in Sacramento, California, and I met him and his wife Grace in California, and he had lost his son to leukemia, and
Oh,
I had tattooed a massive tiki on his arm. And while his son was going through his treatments and everything, he used to have a little toy where you would, it's almost like those like grabbers where you pick up rubbish, or like the toy where you squeeze the handle and the mouth opens and closes, kind of like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's what. And it was a shark. And it was a little shark that his son would always hold, and it was like almost like his confidant, like his little comfort blanket. You know what I mean? That he
Yeah.
had that toy. And then so I did this tiki, and this tiki on his arm, and it has a shark that's swimming around the shoulder of the tiki, and it was just right there. And I I was finished with it. We tattooed all day and stuff, and then he went to take a look at it in the mirror, and then he just broke out crying, and it just like the impact of it and what it did. It was about those times when I started to realize how majorly important these tattoos are, and what they can do for people. It's like music, like a single note or a single series of notes in the beginning of a song can spark tears. It can move your soul. A song from, let's say, a hard time that you've been through, or some things that you've been through, like a marriage or a death of a loved one, and a song can just come on and just strike up tears. It could
Yeah.
draw your emotion. And that was when I started to realize that my tattoos were, oh my God, it impacted so much. And Zeus and his family are still like super close families, like my brother from another mother now.
Hmm.
His daughters Kai and Gianna and everything. We all hang out, but it's that connection we've had, and it's unbreakable. It's just like Zeus is literally a brother of mine now, and because of that impact, that was one of the big one. And then I had another gentleman who came from Tracy, I want to say, out in California, and his story was crazy. His son was born with a heart problem. I guess that they were saying that his son's heart was not growing with him, and
Oh,
so they said that, or something was wrong with his heart, and they said he wouldn't live to be a year old. And 11 years later, not only was the son still alive, but the son was an awesome athlete. He was like just so great, especially at baseball. He loved baseball, and he was just a super athlete. He said, "Great kid in school, great kid, phenomenal." And he said they went to a baseball tournament in Reno, Nevada, and he says, and on their way back, the son was, I want to say it was Reno, when the son said that his chest was hurting after this tournament. So the dad said, it's the standard routine. Let's go straight to the hospital. Like, they don't even mess around with that, right? So he went straight to a hospital. They went to the emergency room, and he said his son was tired because they just played a whole bunch of. tournaments, baseball tournaments. So he's sitting in the emergency room, and then tells his son, like, yeah, just take a nap, got kind of just rest, and when the doctor comes, I'll just wake you up and stuff like that. So he's sitting down, hanging out, and then in the waiting room, and then the doctor calls their names, and he stands up and realizes his son is dead. His son
Oh
died.
my God.
His son died in his arms in the emergency room in the lobby. It was just one of those, like, wow,
Oh,
bro. I couldn't even imagine what. I mean, just hearing these stories, like, it's like, man, it just chokes you up, and just he,
that's terrible.
yeah, like you were like one step right there before the doctor. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so to tattoo him and just share that, it's just been. And his name was Jaden, and it was an unbelievable story. Great people, and then like I was telling you before about my friend Chris Tuff. My friend Chris Tuff, who's a big impact in my life. In fact, I'm actually heading over to his house after these podcasts.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, great friend of mine. And he came into the tattoo parlor. I was working at Ink and Dagger over in Roswell, Georgia, and when he came in, he was like that one guy that comes in, like you can tell his life was kind of not in the right direction. You know what I mean? Where in a sense, like there was a lot of crazy things going on in his life. His spirit was very, oh man, it was like you could tell he was in a bad place.
Yeah,
And
troubled.
yeah, he was very troubled. Yes, and he came to me and he said he went to several tattoo parlors or several places and asked people. He just wanted three lines, like hula hoops, around his forearm, and it represented his wife and his two daughters. Because in the end, even if everything falls apart, he wanted to anchor himself on what was the most important thing in his life, which is his wife and his two daughters. And so he said, I just went around the places, and everybody's like, you want straight lines? You got to go to Keoki. You want straight lines? You got to go to Keoki. And it was just crazy, the story. He was like, yeah, man, I heard you were the guy to come to. So I want three hula hoops on my arm. And I was like, cool. And then we sat down, and then I started telling him about Polynesian tattooing, like what I do, the meaning behind it, the representations and everything like that. And then me and this guy just like dove into a multiverse of just conversation, and just talking about his life, what he's going through, and everything like that, and what this tattoo means, and the strength behind it, and that also that he's a twin, and his wife is also one of twins too. His wife has a twin.
That's
So
nuts.
yeah,
That's really freaky.
yeah, it's crazy. He's a one of a twin, and his wife's one of a twin. And so he wanted to represent these things on his tattoo. So I did the three bands, which represents his wife and his two daughters. And then in there we have a Koru design, a New Zealand design, Maori design that's symmetrical, that represents the symbolism of the twins, both him and his brother, and her and her sister. And so that was the anchor of his life. That's the most important thing. And from that forearm band started a journey that was just unbelievable. And to see him from where he was, I mean, not that he was in a bad place, that mentally we can all be in a bad place. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Those things, not physically but mentally. And he ended up writing a book called The Millennial Whisperer, ended up a national bestseller. And then from there he wrote his second book called Savior Asks, which is another massive, unbelievable book. He travels around the world now speaking to major companies like Nike, Home Depot, like Under Armour, all these massive places, and he just impacts the world now with what he does. And he says that a lot of it has been because of that base. Like when things start to get rough and everything, he looks at his tattoo, reminds him of his family, and what's the most important part of what he's doing. Now he's got an arm sleeve, and then we got his chest piece we did recently. So he's got a chest into his arm sleeve, and then he's got like we got tattoos on his legs and his other arm. He's just lit up everywhere, and now yeah, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I've definitely seen. For me, once you get hooked, that's it. You're off to the races. I just started with one line on my thigh, and now I've got half sleeves on both arms. You made a sweet connection on the top of my back. I'm already thinking about the lower back. You just keep going, because you get bitten by it. It's not just the aesthetic. It's also the moment in time, the meanings that you come up with, the significance, the conversations. Everything is there for a reason. For me, my shoulders that I had done. So, I also had, a troubled past, where I wasn't in the right space. I'm by no means, perfect, but I'm a lot better than where I was. Um, and on my shoulders, I had scars, and I've talked about it before, but the, they're what we call maladaptive coping mechanisms. So basically, one of the things that I used to do was cutting, and it was a way to stop the mental pain, give you that instantaneous break from it. And I did that when I was much, much younger. And I was tired of seeing it in the mirror and being reminded of
Mm.
it. So that's why I got my shoulders covered. And now when I look in the mirror, I'm not taken back to that dark place. I'm taken back to happy memories of getting the tattoos,
Mm.
and that changes everything. And I can see how it makes such a difference. That but once you get started, it's hard to stop. For you, how do you see yourself just still going, or have you reached a point where you're like, I'm going to take a break, or how do you decide when to get a new tattoo?
No, man, just it's one of those things like when the moment comes for me, as we go through life and our tribulations, it's one of those things like when something significant is enough, it is something that I need to remember. I'll put it down. It's one of those things like I'm just waiting for the next journey. Some of them I haven't finished tattoos. It gets to the point where after a while I'm like, man, this, but it's it's the just the pain of going through all the things that we've been through is it really what I think
Through
is just
life.
goes, yeah, it's that pain that you've survived, and then that pain is marked by pain, in your
Yeah.
body, and you have what they call an emotional connection. You have that emotional link to that emotional time in your life, and I think that's what it is. And I thank God that I have apparently I might have done something right a few times that the Lord has blessed me with a lot of great things currently. So I haven't needed to get any tattoos yet, but
Right.
I know that as with all things in life, it comes in waves, the ups and downs, the lefts and rights, and there will be a time when I will go through struggles again because that's life. And when I get to that, oh, I'll be ready, and then I'll be ready to mark my next tattoo when that happens, and then I'll just stand up, grow, and do it again.
How do you decide who does your tattoos? I mean, when you're at your level, you're, in my mind, you're the top of the tops. How do you decide how, getting the next one?
Ooh, I don't know about the top of the top. I'm just, I'm just the guy. I mean, but thank you so much. I'm just one of those guys. But for me, I guess it's the connection. Just like how I want people to connect with me as a tattoo artist. I find tattoo artists that are my friends, people that I meet along my journey through my tattoo career, and we have an exchange of energy. And there are people that I remember that I had a particular exchange with this person or a particular exchange with this person, and then when I go through my trials and tribulations, I will go back to the person or one of my friends, definitely who knows me, who understands, and it's a big thing too. There's like even with our tattooing, it's kind of similar to naming children in Hawaii. Naming children in Hawaii, usually when you have a child that's born, you would let the grandparents name the child. The
Oh,
reason
wow.
the reason why the grandparents name the child is because the grandparents know the parent and they know what the parent needs and not what they want. So they give them a gift of the child. The child is a gift to help you grow in life. A child isn't what people say like an asset or anything like that. A child is a gift from God to help us us to help teach us the things we need to learn in life. If you have no patience, the God will give you a child that will test your patience and that will sit there and teach you patience. You know what I mean? If you have anger, God will give you this child that will teach you to control your anger. Our children are gifts to us to help us understand life. Our children will teach us more than we'll ever learn on our own. Our children
Right.
are a gift. And so for me, like giving a tattoo is like that. I want somebody who's going to give me the gift of what they know I need. And certain people will just give you what you want. You know what I mean? Where my grandmother will know, like, no, no, you're this person. I will give you what you need. And I think that's what it is, with tattooing. And I think I would search for one of my friends that I know at that time would give me the energy that I know and understand that I need.
Do you get into like other styles, like um old sailor tattoos, or realism, or all the other kind of various kind images and perspectives, or are most of yours and what you plan to be Polynesian in effect?
Oh yeah, I learn so many different styles and understandings and perspectives. You always want to get as much perspective as you can to understand things at a more of a broader view. There was a movie I watched. It's called In Search of Greatness. Such an unbelievable movie. I watched it on an airplane once coming home, and in that movie they speak to people like Pele, the soccer player. They speak to
Mhm.
like Muhammad Ali. They speak to Michael Jordan. They speak to all those kind of guys, and Wayne Gretzky. And they ask them like, what does it take to be number one in search of greatness? How do we find greatness and stuff? And Wayne Gretzky said that he became a better hockey player because he played basketball, because he played baseball, because he played soccer, because he played everything else, because all the other sports will give you other perspectives and mechanisms and function of your body to understand how to become better at another thing. So to become better at one thing, it's like they say, a lot of people say the phrase, jack of all trades, master of none.
Right.
But I heard once from a guy who told me that the full phrase is a jack of all trades, master of one is still better than a master. Than a master. Oh, wait. A jack of all trades, master of none is still better than a master of one. The reason why is because your expansive knowledge is better than somebody who has focused all their knowledge. Yeah, they might be this, but your ability to adapt is really what allows you to grow. You know what I mean? Instead of being focused.
Yeah.
So that's really crazy. I mean, just to think about it, a jack of all trades, master of none is still better than a master of one, which is super cool.
Yeah, that's definitely deep, and I know I used that phrase a lot in our last episode, but it's definitely that's very deep. Being able to have that broader knowledge, enabling you to be that much better, is
Hmm.
that's really deep.
Yeah, like I think my dad, we used to play volleyball, and we played a lot of sports growing up. And my dad was like, like if you want to get better at hand-eye coordination or swinging a baseball bat, then play ping pong because the ball's smaller, paddle's smaller, moves way at a pretty fast pace. Learning different sports that'll help you with another sport. So it's super cool to see how that works together when you see the functions of other processes.
Yeah, definitely. All right, man. I think we've covered a lot of ground, and I look forward to covering a lot more. And I can't say it enough, but I love you, man. Much love, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Yes, brother, love you. Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for listening. And check out the next episodes that are coming up. We've got a lot of good stuff coming on. Thank you so much, brother. Love you.
Love you too, man.